Daniel, and I'm a grateful alcoholic.
Amen.
How many of y'all, when we all got here, we handed you this book, and you basically wanted to tell us to go to hell? Or that you have never, like me, I looked at it, I was like, I ain't never read a book that big in my life. You tell me to read it? I got ADD, I ain't reading nothing. Then they tell me it's going to save my life, and I said, well, I don't believe that at all either. How is a book going to change my life? The thing is we come in here so skeptical. It talks about the agnostic and possible atheists that we don't even really want to give it a chance. Anybody want to know why?
Why?
Because we're lazy. We're complacent. We don't like doing the work. And it tells us even on page 25 that we don't like what it takes to get sober and stay sober. We don't like it.
Self-searching.
You know? But when they handed me this book, I tried to cheat them. I ain't gonna lie. I tried just to read the first 164 pages. Thought I was gonna get away with some crap, you know. And then my sponsor, the first thing he asked me was about a story, and I didn't even know what the heck he was talking about. So I had to be honest. I had to go back over and read the whole book, because that's what it says, right? It says in this interval, you give them to it, and they read the whole book. You know why? Willingness. If you ain't willing to read the book, I ain't gonna waste my time. That's basically what it says. You know, if you ain't willing to at least take a look at it, you ain't got to understand it. I didn't understand half of it, but I did relate to it a lot, though. Now, then it was broke down to me that the book only teaches 6 things over and over and over. It mentions it hundreds of times, the same thing over and over and over. And the first thing the book talks about, illness of the body. Everybody turn to XXVIII, 3I, 28. Now all this answered so much I couldn't account for. I could not understand why I kept going and going and going and going. It says, we believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. That the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average typical drinker. These allergic types can never safely use any alcohol, drugs, etc. in any form at all. And once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. Then it also says frothy emotion never appeals. How many of y'all tried to quit for your family? How about court? Facing prison still can't stop, right? It doesn't matter. I've been there. You know, when I got to visit probation in a couple of days, start, can't stop. Now, it goes on to say why we use at the very bottom of the page. It says men and women drink essentially because they like the effects produced by alcohol. We wouldn't have done it if we didn't like it, right? I mean, I liked it, especially smoking weed when I first started. But what happens is we cross that line and we continue on, and if you use your experiences right now, think about it, that most of us started smoking weed probably, then drinking, or both, then partying a little coke maybe, etc., etc., etc. That proves the progressiveness of this disease. How many of y'all have done drugs and shit that you said you would never do? I ain't never gonna be a crackhead. Apparently I am one. You know? It says the sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a drink or drug. Think about how uptight you get when you ain't got no drugs. Ooh. What's it feel like when you finally get high after all the anticipation or you drink finally?
Complete relief.
That's been our damn solution for all our problems our whole life, right? Our whole life. And we'll do whatever it takes to get it, right? Don't matter who you are. Now it says, drinks which they see others taking with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, the phenomenon of craving develops. They pass through the well-known stages of the spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope. Now, it tells me we are allergic to alcohol and drugs. I was like, allergic? I don't break out in bumps and hives and have to go to the hospital to get a shot. That's just symptoms of other allergies. Our symptom is the phenomenon of craving, which means 1 drink, 1 craving, 2 drinks, 2 cravings, 3 drinks, 3 cravings, and so on and so on. Honestly, ask yourself, have you ever had enough? I could be a millionaire and still wouldn't have enough drugs because of my addict self. You know? There's never gonna be enough. And once I start, I can't stop. That's what the allergy is. That's what the phenomenon of craving kicks in. You know? 1 drink, 1 craving. So it multiplies every time. You know? That's why I can't stop once I start. Because it goes on to say on the next page, I think, yeah, at the bottom it says, all these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking. So, I cannot. What is it? I can't use or drink at all is what it's telling me, right? So I can't put the first one in. Because if I put the first one in, what happens?
Comes a second.
Phenomenon of craving. But yet, the second, third, fourth, they don't make it a thing, stop and argument. And it says, have one symptom in common that they cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. This phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy, which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. It has never been, by any treatment with which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. I'm going to repeat that. It has never been, by any treatment with which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. The only relief we suggest is entire abstinence. So an allergy is simply nothing but a what? Hey, alcohol and drugs are pretty common nowadays, right? Do we act normal when we get high? No, we're abnormal. You know? So we can't put the first one. It says only abstinence will do it. How many of y'all tried just not to drink or drugs? It's worked lovely, didn't it? We're sitting here at the Alzeness Recovery Community in beautiful Florence, South Carolina right now. And all the northerners is here like, dang, it's hot. And they ain't even seen nothing yet. This is just the beginning. Summer ain't till next week. Woo! God. But it tells me I can't use. That doesn't work for me. That does not work for me. I've tried over and over and over. On page 22, it says, we know that while the alcoholic keeps away from drink, as he may do for months or years, he reacts much like other men. We are equally positive that once he takes any alcohol, whatever, into his system, something happens both in the bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop. Any of our experiences could tell you that. It says, these observations would be academic and pointless if we never took the first drink. So it's the first one that gets us is what it's saying, right? Thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. So the second thing the book talks about is I have an illness of the mind. Now I joke around every time when I do this and say, hey, I already knew that. I thought I was retarded. I didn't know shit. You know, why did I do all this other stuff that I was doing, man? There wasn't no explanation for me at the time until I found out about the allergies. You know, once I learned about the allergy, that's why I couldn't stop. My mind would tell me, hey, Daniel, you got 4 days till you got to report a probation. Now, this is 3 different times my mind told me this now. It said, you'll be all right. You can do this. It'll be out your system in 3 days. Then I go up in there, messed up as hell. And my probation officer looking at me said, do I even need to waste a test? And I'm like, no. I made it. Both times I was on probation, I made it probably 3 months in all total without violating. That's how bad of an addict I am. I can't stop once I start, you know? And it tells me why. My mind will tell me it's going to be different this time. Or I'm only going to take one. How about this one? I'm only going to smoke a 20. How many of y'all have ever done that? How many of y'all have ever smoked crack? Let me ask that. then there's no way in hell you can put that with that, I promise you.
Yeah, I wish I
Because
knew
you're
about
already
that.
half the time when you take that hit, turning around and going back to the block already. You ain't even made it out the ghetto yet. You know? That's how it works. We already planning on the next one. But our mind will tell us it's going to be different, or nobody's going to know, or I'm not an alcoholic, I'm just an addict, so I might could drink. Ask yourself, anytime you drink, what it leads to. Usually a drug of choice. Or you'll be like me and grab some more drug of choice. Because I ain't found nothing I ain't liked yet, honestly. You know, the only reason I ain't put needles in my arms is because I'm terrified of them. You know, but that's a yet. That'll come. If I keep going on the road I was going on back then, that'll come. Hey, I got 8 tattoos. I ain't too terrified of needles apparently. You know, it'll come. That'll be one of my yets. But my mind will tell me anything it can, or I'll believe the delusion and then run into the truth. And once I start, I can't stop. An obsession, a thought that blocks out all other thoughts. It's pretty much the definition of it. Once I start thinking about it, I ain't thinking about nothing else. I'm plotting, planning, scheming. I'm trying to get anywhere I can to get what I want. Once I believe the lie, I run into the truth. If you're an addict or alcoholic like me, that's our life story. You know, I'm never going to do this crap again. How many of y'all said that? Never. Or I'm sorry, I promise I'll never quit. I mean, I'll quit. That's what my mom was saying. Give me $20. That's what I'm thinking in the back of my mind. I'll never do it again. Give me $20. You know? Yeah, that was pretty funny. But the fact is that our willpower cannot work against the truth we believe. Use your, and think about this. All right, it talks about the hot stove, right? Anybody that's actually read the book probably knows what I'm talking about. All 3 of you. It talks about how it's like us putting our hand on a hot stove. We know that crap's gonna burn us, don't we? We learned that early in life. So we ain't touching that crap no more, are we? Because we know the truth. We know the truth that it's gonna burn us. But what happens to us is our minds tell us, well, it burnt the right hand, maybe it won't burn the left hand. Or maybe if I stick my leg in the oven, it ain't gonna burn it. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's how our minds work. It tries to get any way it can to get us to do what it wants. Now, the problem with this is we get told we don't have willpower, right? You just don't got the willpower to quit. You need to use your willpower. Hey, I say it all the time. I got plenty of willpower. Hey, I rode around in a Lincoln Navigator on $1 worth of gas for 2 weeks and stayed high. That takes some damn willpower. I mean, seriously, you know? But what happens is our mind tells us a lie, we believe it, so willpower becomes non-existent. That makes sense? You know, we believe that we're only going to do one. Or we believe that we're just going to stop in a couple of days. Or we're just going to go drink and watch football with the guys. Which leads me to the next week of the football, and I'm still probably got on the same damn clothes. You know? But that's what happens to us. That's the cycle it's talking about. We start, we can't stop. We stop because we run out of money, get locked up, or get thrown in rehab. Or whatever the case may be, most of us end up in a damn hospital because we done overdose or something. You know? We usually have to be physically stopped almost. You know? So, does everybody understand this? Because this is very important. Because I'm going to go ahead and tell you, step 1 is the only step you have to take 100%. The rest of it's a process. You got to know in your heart, it says on page 44, that every one of y'all answered those diagnostic questions when you got here, or when you called here. Turn there, matter of fact, real quick. 44. Yeah, 44. Because the lack of power